Great. Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of reopening the open session of the HEDRA meeting tonight, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the open session is now reopened.
One item on the agenda tonight, and that's the consideration of signature for a purchase and development agreement for a parcel on return block 28. This is the old Wells Fargo building. So, as you all are aware, we have spent time and capital in acquiring properties on the block. This is the block between 4th and 5th Street, west of Vermillion Street, kitty corner from City Hall. We've looked at this as a prime opportunity site along Highway 61 and in need of redevelopment from our standpoint. So everything in green is what we've acquired as to date. So everything on the block but for the former Wells Fargo EDS building and Spiral Pizza down on I and J. So far, we've spent $1.03 million on acquisition, about $31.72 per square foot. We have half the site, and again, number one priority for HEDRA. So what we're looking at tonight is the potential acquisition of the final lots on the north end, which is L and K. This is the former Wells Fargo and EDS Bank, 3,200 square foot office building constructed in 1977, about a half acre of parcel altogether with this. And then also the adjacent parcel K, which is another 8,500 square feet. So altogether on that, about 3/4 of an acre of that. And this is held right now by FSHS Holding Group. They purchased it from Wells Fargo. They had operated within the building, but that lease has concluded, so the building right now is vacant. With the property acquisition, we would now control 88% of the block, and then there's also the existing Wells Fargo ATM lease within the property. So we would be well on our way of being able to develop a project with the acquisition of this property. So here's the terms that we're looking at tonight. Within the development agreement in the packet, we'd left a couple of these blank, but this is what we are planning to place in there tonight. So any motion that would come forward, I would ask that the offer price of $700,000 or whatever is determined by the board, and property closing by October 21st, 31st. I guess that's already in there. Just the offer price we would need to specify. So looking at this, I think this is something that we're comfortable moving forward with. Looking at the valuation of the properties in the past, we believe that this is a fair offer price, and I'm recommending that we do enter into the development agreement to purchase the property. So that would be the action before you tonight. As far as what it would mean from here for the block, if we were to approve the purchase agreement, we would be in a position to find a developer. We'd have control over almost 90% of the block. We've got a real project that we can market to a developer. We might work independent of that developer to acquire Spiral Pizza, or we may work to acquire Spiral Pizza on our own. They would be the last portion of the block. If we were not able to come to conclusion with an agreement with Spiral Pizza, we'd still be in the ability to do a project on the block as well, which is great. In a perfect situation, love to have a development contract with the developer in place in 2025, go through demolition of buildings and site prep at that time, and hopefully be ready for construction in 2026. So that would be the longer term plans. So before you tonight, HEDRA is the purchase and development agreement, and I would take any questions you may have on that. Ultimately, to ask for your motion to authorize signature. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. John and Alex, thank you for your diligent work in researching this proposal and giving us all the information that we've received. I'm really excited about this development. I think it's really important to the future of our downtown area, and it's really exciting. I would make a motion to approve the purchase price of $700,000.
And then the execution of the agreement?
And the execution of the
Okay,
agreement.
thank you.
Yes.
Before we entertain the motion, can we have, just leave it open for a little more discussion?
Yeah,
Anybody
one
else
thing, a
have
point of
questions?
order, if someone could provide a second, then we could go to discussion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion before we take a vote on this? Okay, I guess my only comments would be if we could add the contingencies to get approval of fund releases from any city officials that would be required.
Right.
Yeah, Dan, what would you have?
I want to see that ATM clause.
Right, and the other contingency would be the lease for the ATM space that is on the site as well.
Yep, and that's part of the agreement itself.
Okay,
is that
so
they
those
would
are
have
included?
to provide that to us within the next few days of execution. What's that?
And that it's agreeable.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that it can be broken when you get out of that 9-year requirement. What if it's a $200,000 penalty
Sure.
to get out?
Yeah.
It changes the dynamics of the purchase.
Okay.
Agreed. Okay. Go ahead.
My point on that is it possible to get a side agreement with Wells Fargo on that? Just so we have something sitting there? I mean, the development agreement between us and or the
Yeah.
contract for purchase would be between us and the purchaser, but I don't know if it requires, maybe that's something for legal?
I
Whether we
would
need a
need to-
side agreement with
I need to
Wells?
find what the terms of the agreement are with Wells Fargo. And from there, we could talk to the city attorney about whether these would just be conferred upon us as the new owner of the property, or whether something different would be necessary. And perhaps something that could be renegotiated with them.
Okay. So, do we need to do anything procedurally to accommodate those two contingencies we just discussed?
Procedurally, there'd be a couple of amendments that have been discussed. One would be to ensure, not sure exactly.
Clarify the lease agreement.
Clarify
make
the
sure it
lease
meets
agreement with the Wells
expectations.
Fargo ATM. And then I'm escaping what the other one was now.
That was the release of the funds from the proper
Release of the
city
funds,
officials.
yes. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So we don't need to, okay. So, all right, we will take a vote on approving the offer as John described with the two amendments of the release of city funds approval from the proper city officials and investigation and agreeing to the terms spelled out for the lease of the ATM by Wells Fargo. Okay. All in favor of approving that signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. And as far as business goes tonight, that's all that staff had here. So, Mr. President, if you want to entertain a motion to close the open door portion of the meeting, we do have one separate closed door session item to consider if you want to read that portion and take motions at this time.
I would love to, but someone should stall while I pull up the verbiage. All right.
And then the motion would be, we got to do that first.
Yep, I've got it for closing it now?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head that I've committed to memory. I will look for a motion to close the session pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D05, Subdivision 3C, and then enter into the final closed-door session, and this will also close the meeting for the evening.
Yeah, just a point of clarification, no other public discussion at the meeting tonight. What HEDRA will be doing is to discuss the terms of this closed session item, and then there's no further action scheduled other than to close the meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
So moved.
Second.